You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in.
I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, I have such an exciting interview for you if you are a real estate nerd and an investor. I've got Adiel Gorel with us today. Now, Adiel and I go back many years, enough that he recognizes that I have better hair today. But the amount that you can learn from this man is off the charts. So I hope you're ready to lean in a little bit and challenge yourself to build a different financial future. Enjoy the conversation. I'll see you on the other side. We are going to have to discuss that sunken living room because it looks like you have about a 1965 house.
It's a 1988.
88? Oh, they were using that old style. See, that is classic.
Well, you know, the guy who built it to his own taste. So, and he was an old guy. He already passed away. So maybe his tastes were 1965.
I mean, that's fair because all those spindles and that sunken living room, I've sold that house so many times, but it was never built in 1988.
Well, again, he built it based on his own whims and desires. So
yeah, but look at all those nice windows you got. You got that beautiful light.
Yeah. And I do get that sinking feeling every time I step into the living room. Now I know why.
But
Yeah. All right. So,
well,
are you still, what have you done since then? You were a very successful broker in the Charlotte, area. What are you doing now?
I'm still a very successful broker in the Charlotte area, but now I own my own building and I have my own firm. I stepped away from the franchise world. And in addition, I primarily only work investors now because that's the most time efficient way to do real estate when you can do math. But also my podcast here is in its 10th season, and I have a very thriving public speaking business, and I also have started a nonprofit. So just keep doing things.
What do you speak about normally?
Well, normally it's about how to improve your sales. It's very sales motivational, but since the starting my nonprofit, I'm digging a little deeper into the idea of what kind of trust currency we have in our lives. And it's once I finish fine tuning it, it's going to be my best keynote ever.
All right. Excellent. I love it.
But it's actually what happens in your business. You can only serve the investors who come to you if you build up a trust account with agents all over the country, and trust not in, financial terms, but in what kind of product are you bringing forward? How accurate are these numbers? Because your reputation's on the line with your partnerships. So I'll be digging into that some more because it's the key to any successful business.
Well, guess how long we've been doing it here at ICG?
ICG be 98?
We've been doing it for 40 years.
40? Well, wait a minute. You're not old enough to have done it for 40 years.
Really? I started when I was 29. Actually, it's getting to be year 41.
Wow. Okay, well, that means we better go ahead and tell our listeners, who is Adiel Gorel? What is ICG? Where are you located? Give them a little bit of a thumbnail of you.
Well, Leigh, you just, asked me to say some things about my background, who I am, what are we doing here. So I actually know you. I worked with you, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But my background is actually in high tech. I'm an IT guy, an electrical engineer and computer scientist. I was in Silicon Valley, living in Palo Alto, right there at the heart of it all. I did my graduate studies at Stanford University, and I taught computer science at Stanford. So as high tech as you get. And then I got my first job, and that was in the 1980s. So you have to think about that. In the 1980s, we didn't have Google. We didn't have Facebook or Meta or whatever other name they want to call it. No Amazon. So where did people really want to work in Silicon Valley? What was the it company? Well, back then it was Hewlett Packard Labs in Palo Alto, which is actually a couple of miles from the Stanford campus. So fortunately, that's where I got my first real Silicon Valley job. I was living right between the campus and HP Labs, could even bike to both places, still was doing research at Stanford, but doing most of my research now at HP Labs. Well, two things happened when I got that first job at HP. First, they paid me so much more than Stanford did. And I was young. So here I am, a young guy, and I'm getting paid so well, or at least I thought it was so much. I mean, it's the same as a young person now getting a job at Google. They're paying me? Okay. So I was getting paid very well. In my research lab at HP Labs, there were some people who were in their 50s and even 60s. So to my mind, I said they must be quite wealthy, because if they've been working here for 30 plus years, getting paid like this, they must be rich. Once I got to know my colleagues, I realized they weren't rich. No, they owned a home and a 401k. That was it. So the younger me said, there's no way I'm going to work here for 30 years and show up like this financially. There's no way. So I clearly have to build it myself. I have to build an empire somehow by myself. Well, I grew up in a family of real estate developers. Now, when I was a child, I didn't care about what, my family did. I wanted to play. But still, I was exposed to the power that comes from owning real estate, just as a child. So it kind of stuck in my mind. So I said, okay, here I am, living in the center of Silicon Valley, getting paid very well, young, single, great credit. I'm going to start buying single-family homes as rentals for my future. I'll build an empire. Now, back then in the 1980s, there was a saying, I'm sure you've heard it too, Leigh, although you're too young to have been there then, but you probably know this saying, only buy within 30 minutes drive of where you live. Never buy more. Okay, so everybody was following this rule like very, very dutiful zombies. And I was one of them. I said, okay, I'll follow the rule. I live in Palo Alto. I'm only going to buy rental homes in Silicon Valley. So I bought several rental homes in Silicon Valley and very quickly realized I could not build an empire in Silicon Valley. Why? Just like today, although the numbers were much lower, the ratio between rent and price was really bad. The rents were too low. I said, it's not sustainable. So I said, well, I'm going to have to break the 30-minute rule and go to a place where the numbers kind of work. How do I find that? I needed to do a little research, but Google didn't exist. And Sergey Brin and Larry Page, I think, were in kindergarten at the time. But luckily, I still had my lab at Stanford, and there they had the ARPANET, the precursor to the internet. So with a very primitive search, I could see that if I flew about an hour and a half from San Francisco, I would land in a smaller city by the name Las Vegas. People know that name, I think. And I saw that in Vegas, I could buy homes that cost about 1/4 of the Silicon Valley price. But amazingly, the rents were closer to 1/2 of the Silicon Valley rent. I said, whoa, that's so much better. I started flying to Vegas every weekend. Well, I always looked a little younger than my age. Back then, I looked like a boy. Nobody was buying out of state. The people in Vegas were skeptical. They thought I would waste their time. Nobody wanted to even talk to me much. So I spent my first couple of months looking for a property management firm. Because I knew if I live in Palo Alto, California, and I will buy homes in Las Vegas, Nevada, I need a property management firm to take care of it. So I interviewed a lot of firms, and finally I found one that I liked, but I was still quite nervous because I didn't have a chance to test them in the field yet. And while I was finding my managers, which you must have, a realtor took pity on me and said, okay, I'll work with you, with a crazy boy from California. So I started buying. I was always very aggressive. In my first year, I bought 22 homes in Vegas. Now, before people get impressed by that number, and Leigh, I'm going to have to ask you not to laugh. I will tell you that the average home I bought in Vegas at that time cost me $39,000 for the whole house. Not only that, back then, Fannie Mae didn't have a limit on the number of loans a person can have. And as an investor, I was allowed to put only 10% down payment with PMI or private mortgage insurance. And so now, with $39,000 per home, putting only 10% down, with a Silicon Valley salary, buying 22 homes, very doable. Still, it was so much more than anyone else I know. I never met a person at that time. I had never met who had bought 22 homes. Now, during the first year, my Silicon Valley friends were mercilessly making fun of me. What are you doing? Nobody buys far from home. Nobody buys out of state. You're insane. But after a year, when they saw me with my 22 homes, the logic of the engineers prevailed. And they said, you know what? We understand what you're doing. We want to do it too. I said, you should go do it. Do it. It'll change your future. It'll change your life. And they said, listen, you know how busy we all are. You work in Silicon Valley too. You're already there with your managers, with your realtors. How about you lead us? I said, okay, I'll lead you. So I led a group of about 20 engineers, and over about 3.5 years, we bought something like 250 homes in Vegas. Not as a group. She bought 6 homes for herself. He bought 4 homes for himself. I bought a couple more. But I made a very trivial discovery. Even the very cautious engineer who bought just one little home in Vegas enjoyed the muscle, the power, the clout of 250 homes. Because the service providers, the managers, and the realtors knew if he's not happy with them, he would complain to me. And now I wouldn't be happy, and every other manager in Vegas was calling me all the time. Come to us. We are cheaper. We are nicer. We are taller. We are prettier. Come to us. Who doesn't want to manage 250 homes, not to mention the dozens more we may buy in the future? Now, it was so unusual that I started getting invited to speak. You're a public speaker and a great one at that, Leigh. So, it was a lot of fun. People really wanted me to speak for all kinds of investment groups about buying out of state. It was unusual. It was crazy. In one of my lectures, unbeknownst to me, there was a reporter for the San Francisco paper. And in the Sunday paper, there was an article about me and all of that. And then I was invited because of that to speak on the NBC morning news. I started liking it so much more than my tech life that I dropped my tech life. I invested a lot of studies, dropped it all, started our company, ICG, International Capital Group, because so many people from other countries were interested also. And I've been doing it for 40 years. So now we jump to the present. My investors bought more than 10,000 homes in about 30 markets. One of the markets is how I met you, Leigh. So in every market, I used to fly out and interview management companies until we find one that we like. Interview local brokers until we find one that you like. You get, recommendation. And as the years go by, it gets easier because people want to work with you. They want to get this volume of business. And then we give them the acid test. I used to come in and buy like 10 or 15 homes. My staff, my veteran investors, once we saw that we liked the managers and the realtors, we brought all of our investors. And we have markets where we bought 2,000 homes over the past 40. We even have one where we bought over 3,000 homes. But the principle remains the same. So I met you, Leigh, because you were the chosen broker that we liked so much, representing the Charlotte, North Carolina market. And we worked together. You came to our events. I always loved working with you. So it's really a treat to be on this show with you. It's really fun. But I have to add one element to this talk. Normally, when people listen to me speak, and I've clearly been the leading investor of my whole group, and it's true, to this day, I bought more homes than anyone else. So a very logical question would be, well, if you've been doing it for 40 years, and you have more homes than anyone else, why are you bothering being on this podcast? Why aren't you retired? There's a reason. And the reason is important. When I start investing, I learned a fact about the United States and the real estate markets in the US that completely blew my mind. And I've not recovered from that to this day, even though I wrote 7 books already. I was on a PBS special. I did a TEDx talk. I have not recovered. And nobody in the US, hardly anybody, recognizes it. They told me about an unbelievable financial gift that, to the best of my knowledge, exists only in the United States. And the gift is so enormous, it changes lives. So what's the name of that unbelievable gift? Well, it's a name that you know. Everybody knows. The name is the 30-year fixed rate loan. Most Americans say, well, we know about this. What's new? What the heck? Well, what? It's not a gift. What? Okay. Imagine 40 years ago, Leigh, when we bought a postage stamp, it was 4 cents. Today, I believe it's 72, if I'm not mistaken. 40 years ago, we went to the movies in San Francisco for $2. Now it's $15. Leigh, let's say that you and I go to Whole Foods and we want to buy a beautiful organic avocado. It's going to be $2.25. I bought one. You and I know, and everybody knows, in 10 years, the avocado is probably going to cost $4. Why? Inflation. We have inflation. So imagine the cost of the avocado goes up with inflation. The cost of shoes goes up with inflation. The tomatoes, rents, houses, cups, except for your mortgage, which is fixed. So everything goes up with inflation and time, but your mortgage never budges. Your monthly payment, principal and interest, as well as the mortgage balance, which goes down with the principal payments anyway, they don't budge. That means inflation becomes your best friend. As the prices of everything else rises, this stays the same. So inflation with time effectively lowers your debt all the time in real dollars. Remember, I bought my first homes in Vegas for $39,000. Today, these homes are worth about $270,000. Inflation. Part of it is appreciation. Most of it is inflation. So I discovered, to my amazement, nobody in the United States thinks about it as special. Why? They were born into it. They think it's normal. It's not normal. In all the other countries in the world that I know, your mortgage payments keeps up with inflation. Your mortgage balance keeps up with inflation, not with a cap, with a yearly cap and a lifetime cap like in the US. No cap. It's only fair. I lend you money. I expect you to pay me back my money with the same value vis-a-vis inflation. Except in the United States, the only person I was in touch with, that happened in 2012, a little bit after you and I were working with each other, is the great Warren Buffett. He and I were back and forth in 2012. Even though he's a stock and company guy, he said 2012 was a good year to buy a large number of single-family homes because they were still reeling from the big, downturn. So he wanted to buy 70,000 homes for Berkshire Hathaway, and he completely understands what the 30-year fixed rate loan means. So he said, I want to buy 70,000 homes, everyone with 20% down and a 30-year fixed rate loan. And then he said the cutest sentence that I've ever seen. By then, Fannie Mae was already limiting the number of loans you can have to 10. So then he says, I talked to Fannie Mae, they said I can only get 10 loans. So whether you are a truck driver from Fresno, California, or Warren Buffett, Fannie Mae only will give you 10 loans. So, yeah, but he was the only person. In fact, there's an article in Entrepreneur magazine about my interaction with Buffett. And to this day, he still raises the 30-year fixed rate loan. Now, that is a life changer. Now, does it take 30 years until the changes come? No. In fact, the 30-year fixed rate loan is almost a misleading name. Maybe they should have called it Mary or Kevin, not 30-year fixed rate loan. Normally, the life-changing effects come between 12 and 14 years. Here is one story, one example, a second, from thousands that I have. I get a call from one of my investors, a Silicon Valley guy. He says, remember me? I bought homes with you guys in my early 40s. I started by buying only one home because I'm super busy. I was extremely busy in my Silicon Valley job. I needed to make sure that the property managers really take care of all the heavy lifting. So when I saw that my house leased and it was really taken care of by the manager over there, I bought another one. I understood these are smart people. What you had explained about the 30-year fixed rate loan. So I wanted to maximize my gift and use my money to stretch it as far as many homes as I could. I put small down payments, got there, and I ended up buying 19 homes, he says. Not as impressive as it sounds. At the time he was buying those homes, we were already buying only brand new homes, like we did with you, Leigh. That's all we like to do. Brand new homes. So he was buying brand new homes at the time for about $150,000 each, with a little down payment. For a Silicon Valley engineer, buying 19 homes, not a big deal. Then he says, last year I turned 55. I looked at my 19 homes, and all of them still had 17 years left on the 30-year fixed rate loan. Not even halfway. But I realized that even though when I bought them, my loans were very high because I put a small down payment, after 13 years in this case, my loans were about a quarter of the value of the homes. That's what inflation does to a loan that never budges while everything else goes up with inflation. So he said, first, I was super happy because over 19 homes, I had millions of dollars in equity when I was 55. Second, I took 4 of my 19 homes, sold them. I didn't do anything fancy, no 1031 exchanges, just sold and paid my taxes. And I used the proceeds to pay off the remaining small 15 loans. And with 15 free and clear homes, I retired from my Silicon Valley job. Thank you. And then he proceeded to say the sentence that every one of my investors always says in the future. Even I say, I should have bought more. Everybody says that. So that's the miracle. That's the crazy stuff that exists in the United States. A loan that doesn't change with inflation while everything else does. What a crazy miracle gift. And the Americans don't recognize it. So how can I retire? How can I retire when I have a message that is so life-changing? So that's why I'm not retired.
So if you're in real estate and you're listening to this podcast or watching it and thinking, man, I need some more Leigh Brown answers in my life. Well, guess what, friends? I have a new program that is launching right now called Answers.Real-Estate, where I will give you every bit of insight I have to help you grow your real estate business, help you better respond to consumers, to provide a more excellent real estate experience, so that the next time you land on crazy shit in real estate, you'll have a better solution to whatever you ran into. Answers.Real-Estate. There are monthly plans available. You will love it. Get your coaching. Sign up with me today.
Well, our people are spoiled. They don't know how fortunate we are to have a 30-year fix. And in fact, we elect new congressmen all the time who declare they're going to change it, that people who have some skin in the game and they want a max 20-year amortization or a 15-year and not a 30, forgetting that it is the key to the affordability situation, whether you're an investor buying something where the numbers work or you're a homeowner trying to get into something for the first time. Now, I do have to ask you a question. All those properties you bought in Las Vegas all those years ago, how many do you still have?
Okay. So I ended up buying a total of close to 30 homes in Vegas. That's all. I didn't go much more. Today, I still own, it's either 7 or 8. And it's actually quite instructive. Out of those 7 or 8, I bought them for $39,000. And the rent was about $340. You know, when you're in real estate, you put 1,000 after every number.
Yeah.
$340 a month. Today, the typical home that I bought is about $270,000 and close to $300, and the rent is about $1,800 a month. So it just went up with inflation, like the cost of the avocados, the tomatoes. So I put a down payment of $3,900 with closing costs, just a few $1,000s. And, again, I wish I'd bought more, but luckily I bought more than any of my investors. And I have people in Silicon Valley who bought 70 homes, 80 homes, 100 homes, 60 homes. I still bought more. Still, I wish I'd bought more. Because, in the future, it becomes painfully, think about Richmond, think about North Carolina. When you bought a home 25 years ago, what was it? How much did it cost? 100,000, 90,000, 80, what?
I mean, the average price 20 years ago was right at 140. And now our average price is just under 400. I mean, it's night and day. And I love the point of you wish you'd bought more in the past. That's probably the number one thing that's said by anybody in the medium age category who's been in real estate for a while. It almost doesn't matter where you buy it if your investment window is long enough. And we look at this with the people who came through the Great Recession. And everybody I know wishes they could go back, find the money somehow, and buy those foreclosure houses, buy the new construction when the builders were having a hard time moving it, and find a way through. But our human nature is to get really focused on the minute we're in, instead of looking down the road. And that's what real estate investing teaches you, to look up and look down the road instead of getting really attached to where you are right now. And to the point of what you've done and what ICG has done, you can't be afraid to look outside of your home market. Now, not everybody has that risk profile, and we understand that. Some of y'all should maybe not invest, or if you invest, don't go far away. But if you have the right team on the ground and you understand the tax implications and you understand what you're doing, why wouldn't you look out of area? Although, to be fair, I won't buy in South Carolina anymore because I had an incarcerated tenant who drove through the property and went to jail. And then they said that you can't evict somebody who's incarcerated. And I said, well, I'm not buying any more rental properties in South Carolina. But this is why you should know the laws where you buy. You should know what's going to govern tenant landlord. And as long as you know those things, why not? What do you have to lose? People are always going to need shelter.
I agree 100%. And actually, I've tried to simplify as much as I can. I come from Silicon Valley. Many of my investors are high-tech people, but also nurses and drivers and doctors and lawyers and realtors. A lot of realtors who have made everybody else rich except themselves. So, I've made it so I coddle my investors like babies. There is a management company in place whom we gave 1,500 homes to. They're eager to please us, hence the investor. So even if an investor buys one home, they have the power of 1,500, 2,000 homes. So they come into a very well-curated situation. Doesn't matter where they buy. They get the 30-year fixed rate loan. I and my staff are always there to monitor, to see what's going on. We make it simple. I try to simplify. Everybody loves to complicate. I love to simplify. So I actually am passionate about letting people buy this home. I like to buy in the Sunbelt states for the demographics show that that's where the growth is. Large metropolitan areas, diversity of jobs. The suburbs, families with kids, they go to school, they stay put, and brand new homes. I wrote magazine articles about every one of these subjects. I'll be happy to share with your listeners, with your viewers, send them a link to my TED Talk, send them a link to the PBS show, whatever it is. And once every quarter, as you know, you were a part of it. We have a big event on a Saturday. We bring all the market teams and they speak. I take hundreds of questions. I bring experts, lawyers. Since the pandemic, we moved it to Zoom and we shortened it to 4 hours, making it easy for people to join from all over the world. We just had our last event on December 7th. The next event is going to be on March 1st. We make it free because the message is strong. It changes lives.
Well, real estate does change lives. And for the people who are watching and listening, if you think this is always about dollars, I want you to remember something else too. There is a human aspect in being a real estate investor because people do need shelter. And if you're the person who invests in real estate and you buy properties that are well built and they're not leaking and the heat works and you have a manager that answers the phone, you're actually providing something people need while you get compensated for that. I think it's the perfect world for the people who want to do good things, but also financially cushion themselves against the future. And also, you and I have been through a lot of different market conditions. There's a lot of investors out there right now that are saying, wait, don't buy, wait until the market goes down. What is your answer to the people who are waiting for a market crash?
Absolutely. Everything you said, I agree 100%. So here is what it's like. Every time that when you live in a country where they give you the biggest financial gift in the world, the 30-year fixed rate loan, any time is a good time to buy. Any time. Even when you think prices are high. Why? Never mind, we don't need appreciation. We just need inflation. The cost of the tomatoes will go up. The rents will go up. It will go up. The $400,000 home that you look at now in your market, give it 25 years, it's going to be $1 million. Not because of appreciation, inflation. It makes the dollar weaker and weaker all the time. You need more dollars to buy shoes, to pay rent, to buy the home. So anytime is a good time to buy when you get a loan that's never going to change. Interest rates. When I began buying those homes in Vegas, the interest rates were 14%. Now, you don't have to be a great mathematician to know if I put only 10% down, with PMI, no less, and the rates were 14, every one of the homes I started with in Vegas started with a negative cash flow. But I was working in a good job. My salary could cover it. And I, even back then, had a clear picture. Even at 14%, the loan is fixed. The rent is not. So now it's negative. In a couple of years, it's going to be break even, then positive, then more positive. Exactly what happened, except in a couple of years, the rent went down to 12. 12! We refinanced down to 12. Everything became positive. And then a few years later, what a day that was, Leigh. What a day. The media was screaming, single-digit interest rates. We all ran out and refinanced to 9.95. Everything became super positive. Just those homes in Vegas would have set me up for life, but I didn't stop. So it makes me I don't need to go to any stand-up comedy when people say, oh my God, the rates are 6.5. They're so high. Really? So yes, during COVID, the Fed brought rates to a place, the lowest in the history of all time, 3 or even less. They may never get back there. So 6 seems very high. But who cares? When we were in the throes of 3% rates or less, the media was hyping it up and everybody wanted to buy. The demand was excruciatingly high. The supply was still suffering from supply chain COVID time. So the prices shot up and the builders, we just buy brand new homes, said, I can be very picky. I have much more business than I can handle. I don't want to work with investors, only homeowners. So it was very difficult to buy. Now, the media, again, is pumping, don't buy, the rates are unbelievably high at 6. Really? Unbelievably high. One of the lowest rates in my 40 years of doing it, but never mind. So people are sitting and waiting. The builders have created much more inventory. So this The demand is lower, supply is high. The builders love to sell to investors now. They give you gifts. In fact, they lower your interest rate by buying it down. So it's so much wiser to buy now when it's easy to buy. And later, if the rates go down, you refinance. Hello?
And if they don't, because inflation stays high, that drives your rents up. And so you always have to remember that if you get frustrated by the government spending because they have an addiction to spending, they're not going to make cuts. They don't have the spine for it. As long as they keep spending, y'all, that's what keeps inflation high. That's what's going to drive up the prices of housing and rent. And you don't have to like it to pay attention to it and know how do you respond to it. And I would be hard pressed to find an investor who bought properties 20 or 30 years ago who regrets it now. The only regrets older investors have is ever selling anything from their portfolio because they wish they'd held on to it.
So
and
true.
I just got to add one other thing there with that buy down point. To your point of understanding how the market moves, we have a local builder right now who's doing a buy down of the interest rate to 2.99%. We haven't seen anything that low in 2.5 years. And it's because the market has stabilized and builders need to move inventory. And so you look at that and say, how do I make this part of my financial strategy so that I don't miss out again? Because I don't think we're going to go back to a normal of 3%, but you can throw money at it to bring it down. And that's generally throwing good money after good.
Actually, Leigh, the way you are describing your market, I would like us to be in contact, because if there is a builder that does that,
it's one of the ones you and I used to work with. They're still financially stable because they're a conservative builder they never overextended on lots and land and on specs, but now they've got an imbalance because, as we know, the building market can lag the sales market because of the time it takes to go through the permit process and get it up and running. And then builders do not like to sit on inventory. So yeah, I'll pull the information and send it over to you.
Yeah, please. And in short, because we have the crazy loan that never changes with inflation, while it all does, the best time to buy is now. It's always now. It doesn't matter. You bought high, doesn't matter. Inflation will bring everything much, 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 much higher. You bought low, even better, but it's not that important. Just the formula, the way I say it is this: buy a brand new home in the suburbs of a large metropolitan area in the Sun Belt that's affordable. Let the local property manager list the home on which you got a 30-year fixed rate loan with a lower down payment. And after the manager leases it, proceed to do the hardest action for a human being to do. Nothing. Nothing. Just wait for 10 years, 12 years, and look and see how much equity you have, how much wealth you've built, and then you're going to say, I should have bought more. Not to mention sending your kids to the best schools in the country. With ease, one of these homes can send a kid to Stanford, to Harvard for 4 years. This is a life changer. The best time to buy is always now because of the loan that never changes. It's a miracle.
All right. So, Adiel, if anybody wants to reach out to you to find out about the educational events that ICG does or how they can access any of your information, is there a general website they could visit for information on events and to sign up?
Absolutely. Our website is ICGRE, real estate, ICGRE.com. And if you want to send me an email, get those articles, the Warren Buffett article, everything, info@icgre.com. And one more thing I'll say. When I decided not to retire, I needed to find balance in my life. So I make music in my home studio. These are some of my tools. And you can actually find my music on all the platforms. I have a health and wellness podcast, but I'm dedicating more than half my time for one-on-one meeting with you guys. You want to meet with me? Either go to the website, you can set a meeting, or send us an email, info@icgre.com. I'm passionate about it because it's a life changer.
You know, I'm looking you up on Spotify right now. There you are, Adiel Gorel artist. What? I'm gonna be one of your new listeners, and I'm gonna check out the Omicron here.
All right. Thank you.
But your big song is Lazy Bones.
Lazy Bones is a good, yeah, I like it a lot. I wrote that song in a January where everybody was making New Year's resolution and nobody was following off. And I felt pretty lazy. I wrote the song Lazy Bones.
I cannot wait to check that out. So I got to ask you before I let you go, are you going to get RFK Jr. on your health and wellness podcast?
I don't know. He's going to be very busy now. If he gets, confirmed.
He will. They're going to be afraid to not confirm him, and he's exactly what we need.
I believe so. And that's a whole story. But yeah, I mean, the housing, homes, single family homes. Why single family? Because the magic loan is only given on 1 to 4 units, not 5 and above.
Well, and the HOA dues on condos and townhouses will absolutely mess up your numbers. And we want you to be smart with your investing so that you can have reliable outcomes. And it's less reliable when you have an HOA run by 3 grumpy neighbors who increase your dues every year. All right. So I will have all of Adiel's links and all of the information in the show notes for this episode. And of course, you can always email and get them for yourself faster. Thank you so much for coming on. It's good to see you after all these years. And I look forward to reconnecting and doing some more good things for our investor clients.
Thanks. And thanks for having me.
All right, guys, say something nice below. Oh, before you ask. He's Israeli. That's where his accent comes from. They're going to ask. And so make sure you subscribe for more. Come see more conversations over here on Crazy Shit in Real Estate, and we'll see you next time.
By the way, friends, don't miss my brand new coaching program at answers.realestate, where you can have access to Leigh Brown, submit your questions, have them answered, meet like-minded professionals, have an entire library to help you build your business no matter what happens in the market. Get signed up today. I promise you'll be glad you did. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.